Hi, I'm Chris Haigh and this is the Fiddle channel, and today I'm going to show you how to play with drones. Now, in many of my videos, particularly on old time and bluegrassy type tunes, I talk about playing with drones, and I tend to assume that everyone knows how to do drones and finds it really easy. But in this video I'm going to explain to some extent what is actually going on, how you can work out what drones you can use, which ones to avoid, and so forth. So first of all, what's the difference between drones and double stops? Now, to me, a drone is a melody played with an extra note either above or below. So if the melody is those three notes, then a drone will be an open string either above or below, whereas a double stop will be something like that, where you're actually fingering another note. So a fingered note is a double stop, and an open string extra note is a drone. At least that's the way that I define it. Why are drones so common? There's lots of reasons for this. One is it gives depth and volume and body to a tune, and particularly if you're playing solo without any chords and without any backing, then having that drone gives you that extra something. You could argue from a musicological point of view that drones are to some extent descended from the bagpipes, because most places before the fiddles were playing, there were bagpipes playing the same tunes or similar tunes, and they obviously used drones, and so to some extent fiddle players started off trying to copy what the bagpipes had played. That's probably less relevant in America, where the bagpipes weren't around as they were all over Europe. Are drones continuous? No, they're not. You can play a tune where the drones come in some of the time, maybe in 3 or 4 notes in a row, but it's unusual, I think, to have a drone that goes continuously all the way through a tune. Are drones usually written? No, they're not. If you write drones, then it makes the music look really difficult. It makes it difficult to pick out what is the melody, the melody being the important part, and which is the less important part, which is obviously the drones. So very often you will write the tune just as a melody and you will say use drones where appropriate. But this is where this video comes in, to try and explain how to work out what is actually appropriate. Are drones played above or below the melody? And the answer to that is both. It can be below or above, and we're going to try and show how you decide that. So if you've never played a drone before, let's try this. In the key of A, open first second. That's the melody. Now if we put a open E over the top of that, we get this. So what actually happens to the bow? If you look at your bow very closely as you're doing, you'll see that you're angling it very carefully so it doesn't touch the D and it doesn't touch the E. And as a beginner, that's actually really difficult to get it not touching another string. We'll just angle it ever so slightly towards the E string, and you get that nice drone. If you angle it only a little bit, so it's only just touching, then that drone will be slightly quieter, and if you angle it more, then you'll hear more of the drone. So most of the time you're going to want still to be a little bit more towards the melody string than you are towards the drone string, but you don't really have to worry about that very much. So as a little exercise, try alternating and looking at your bow at the same time between and then try doing it without looking at your bow hand, or in fact with your eyes closed. And then you can do it purely by the feel of your hand and the sound of what you're hearing rather than what you're seeing. The reason that this works well for the key of A on open 1-2 is that the E string is a fifth above, and that makes a nice harmony with the A, the B and the C. If you tried doing the harmony below, then it doesn't sound nearly so good, because the D below is a fourth away rather than a fifth away, and the fifth is always a good harmony, the fourth is often not a good harmony. Let's go down to the key of D and do with the drone, and in the key of G. So you can see that if you are in G, D or A and you're starting a melody on the open string on the root, then you're going to get off to a good start with drones. Now let's try a full octave, swapping from the upper to the lower drone. So we're going to do, that's the melody. We're going to start off with 4 on the upper drone, and then carrying on. You'll hear that there are 2 notes that are not quite right, so just play it again and listen carefully to which ones you think they might be. So it's probably fairly clear that that is a bit of a discord and that is a lot of a discord. Now, does that mean that you can't play those harmonies? And I would say no, it doesn't mean that. If you're purely using them as passing notes, i.e. you're not dwelling on them, you're not playing them long, then you can probably get away with it. So if I played something like this, then that doesn't sound too bad. Whereas if I play this, that's pretty painful. Let's try 2 octaves starting lower. So we're going to go, and see what we've got. So we're going to start off with 4 drones above. Clearly that's not very good. Not too bad. So you can hear that the upper octave works quite a lot better than the lower octave. And if you're playing a melody in the key of A, with a bit of luck then most of the melody is going to be in that upper octave anyway. But if you're playing in the lower octave, you will just leave out the ones that really don't work. And if you're not sure, then leave them all out in the lower octave. In fact, looking at it closely, the ones that do work in upper and lower octaves are these. And I'd never actually realised this until I wrote this out a couple of days ago. That is the pentatonic scale. And is that a coincidence that these are the notes that work as drones? It's probably not a coincidence. The reason pentatonic scales are in such general wide use is that the notes harmonise easily with one another and with, I think, with open strings. So if you're playing a pentatonic melody, the chances are that most of it is going to harmonise really well with open string drones. Right, let's look at the key of G, 2 octaves. So we're going to go, but with the drones. So again, some work and some don't, and noticeably the last one really doesn't work. So there are bits of this scale that work. Again, the pentatonic works pretty well. Providing you don't go up to that high G. Now, this is where it's useful to add some double stops rather than just drones. So if you want to go up to the high G, you can do this. last note we're harmonising the G with a D under it, or you could put a B under it. So in practice, over time, you will work out how to mix your open string drones with double stops to good effect. Now let's look at the key of C. It's really not very good at all. The only bits of the C that work are only 4 notes really, and in the key of F you've only really got 3 notes that work. So it's pretty impractical outside of G, A and D to use drones, apart from on 1 or 2 notes. So a few conclusions. Firstly, drones work best in the common fiddle keys G, D and A, and that is absolutely no coincidence. It's because fiddlers like drones, that is why they've chosen those keys. They work best on pentatonic scales, as we've shown. You have a choice of upper and lower drones, and depending on where you are in the scale, one or the other will work. It's pretty rare for both an upper and a lower to work. It's best to mix drones with double stops and single notes, because there are some notes which are not really convenient either to drone or to double stop. Finally, let's look at a tune, Turkey in the Straw, which I started out with. I'm going to play you the simple melody without any drones, and as an exercise you can try working through this and try and find out what you think are the best upper or lower drones. So the tune, as I've written it and as I'm going to play it, is this. Now obviously I could just write out the drones for you, but it's a much more useful exercise if you work it out for yourself. Try the melody, try each note droning either with the upper string or with the lower string, and see what you think works. I hope you found this useful. If you want a copy of these dots, then do subscribe and send me an email. I will send you a copy. And I'm going to play you out with Turkey in the Straw, and if you want to cheat and transcribe what I do, then you're very welcome to do so. See you again soon.